Greetings and welcome to another edition of Paint Here Now. I am Will Parody, and we are going to paint an abstraction today. We are going to start one. This is also going to be a series. It will be at least a three-part series. Again, I like to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll try to keep that going for us here. And we're going to start a painting that is about color and form and light and contrast and just a sense of beauty that's not about anything. I'm going to resist temptations to bring out faces. I'll point things out, but I'm not going to bring out faces or landscapes. I'll show how things can be. But we're going to make a nice abstract piece because it's something that can and should be accessible to more people. Like, abstraction isn't just some gaudy sort of free idea of art that doesn't make a lot of sense and it doesn't have talent or skill involved. It has a lot. There's a lot of passion, love, art, composition, vision involved with abstraction. And there's also a way to connect with the world and the mind in a larger sense of things, truly, through looking at abstraction. Think about it like this: classical music. When you listen to a lot of classical music without words, even some with words in a language you don't understand, like opera, which is actually a decent example, you're just hearing you're hearing just notes, you're hearing a feeling, you're hearing a emotion, and there's some, or emotion. And there's some classical music that's very much without a particular story or a feel. It's just about the music and how that in and of itself feels without telling a tale. It's abstract. And they say a lot of music and classical music from all eras is good for the mind. It's something that babies and children should be listening to. They say, it helps to increase brain power, and it makes sense. And they've played it to water and watched water freeze to classical music, and they react to it as opposed to other kinds, and it just expands things. It's very interesting stuff. So I believe abstraction has a similar principle as abstract music does to the mind through the ears. So does abstract painting to the mind through the eyes. So anyways, without further ado, we're going to, get to some painting, and I'll show you as we start painting the materials that I'm going to be using. It's the usual, for those of you who have seen ice cube tray, start with the basic colors: red, blue, yellow, green, orange, and purple. And you can start with just red, blue, and yellow and mix them yourselves. And that's how we started the first lesson. And we're going to start with those and some white and maybe another color or two. We'll see. But we're definitely going to add different colors. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to sharing abstraction with you, to sharing the process, because it can be so many different things in different ways. But I'm going to show you this one way, which can change for every painting you do. It's really cool. So anyways, we're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you very much for sticking with us, and let's do some painting. All right. Well, we'll show you what we're using here for colors. As usual, here I'm using this ice cube tray. You can use any type of old recycled material. We were doing a kids video earlier. It's not really just for kids, but kind of focused, painting simple ducks with a few strokes. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, that will also be out there. And then, an old salsa lid. Unfortunately, so much of this is waste. We try to buy other things if we can, and cut off back on even getting those things, but they do show up every once in a while, and they're good to use for this type of thing. You can have a palette right here that you can use essentially forever. You can peel the paint off and reuse it in a painting to make a thick piece. We'll do that at some point. So anyways, we've got some red, yellow, blue, a couple kinds of blue here, green, another yellow. I've got some fluorescents here, a few kinds of blue, yellow, a fluorescent pink, and a fluorescent purple, which these two are stronger, especially the yellow, but they're nice. You can use them just as regular paints. They brighten things up, and they can have some real nice mix to the color. Also, too, we're going to add in a little bit, but, well, or who knows when we'll add it, but I got a little gold. If you actually have iridescent paints or those sorts of things, they can be a lot of fun and great to use, especially in an abstraction, because it's another element that can exist in the world of a painting. And it's a lot of fun to paint with. So it's our basic palette. We're going to start off with a brush like this for a painting this size. We can do a bigger brush if we wanted to, but you're going to find that as we paint and we kind of use these smaller strokes, you can even see a little bit, the faint hint of them with this brush. You'll be able to see how they accumulate. They end up, growing pretty rapidly, as well as forming some real neat shapes, forms, and circles in a real intricate kind of a way of building a piece and building an interest and building not just... See, one of the great things about abstraction is it's not just a... See, we're just going to start. It's not just about... It's really not even about projecting an idea or a particular contrast of form or this and that. It can be, but abstraction and the creation of painting is really about the creation of a universe. It's about building an infinitely changing, ever-growing body of form, color, movement, composition, something that you can see something different in every time, that has a value, a power, a beauty, and energy beyond what it might mean. Like when we look up at the sky and see the stars and the beauty of a sunset or the galaxy Milky Way, even pictures from outer space, which we're fortunate enough to be able to see now, what intrigues us is the abstraction of the color forms and the contrast, the beautiful resolutions of them into harmonies, and just the dancing, living stuff of life. And then beyond that, then we start to try to understand a little bit about what it is, what it means to us in physics and all this, but it really comes from the art, the intrigue of it. So that's really how I connect abstraction to things. So what I did here is I had a little bit of paint, a little bit of purple paint seep into the yellow. I don't know if you can see that. And that's okay. Sometimes when I'm painting this way, abstracting, especially in the beginning stages, I let the palette get I don't necessarily mind if my palette gets a little dirty or if my gets, a little bit of mix of paint on the brush, because it allows for different neat little combinations of color to happen. Overdo it sometimes, but that's okay. See, it's neat. It's cool. Anyways, and so I'm adding some stuff. Right now, I'm just... I was getting caught in those little moments to show you some of those things. But now I'm looking at... So what I've been doing is I grabbed some green, which is a nice dark contrast against this white. And I started to make these little marks and circles. And I like to do that. I like to just sort of follow a rhythm with my eye and a pattern that kind of pops out to me in the canvas. It's not anything I'm making up. It's not anything that I'm contriving. I want it to look like this. Certainly not generally. In a case of abstraction, I'm just sort of following a feeling and following a rhythm, rather than just being, I got to paint this section or color all this. It's going to build itself up. This is one, I think, important way in which we can build a universe. Like a big bang, it starts with one thing, expands into everything else, but this kind of takes time. And I like this yellow, and I liked how it kind of made a form in here in what was a circular thing. It made a nice line. I'm going to continue that a little bit in here, but in a slightly different way. We will add a little bit of purple, though, because it does help to, even though we're painting abstractly and we are not concerned with, this needs to look like a tree or a face or London Bridge or whatever, we still can find that balance and maybe in harmony, or the way things work together and the flow of things are affected by the colors you use. It's not just all like, I'm going to paint willy-nilly here and it's the exact same as painting colors over here. It's just what I want. Colors will do certain things. The eye will travel to one section if you let it. It will overlook another. It will make something feel awkward, or it will make something feel sublime, depending on how you pay attention to things connecting together. So just because it's abstract, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a meaning, or it doesn't have a sort of a rhythm to follow. And again, that can be anything. Like you can make a choice. Like I could go here, 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 all these choices. And from there, I can find a different rhythm, but each would take me a different way. And it can also lead me to a place where I lose the rhythm or I lose feeling of a piece. And then you can find it again. And that's the beauty of this kind of painting. Sometimes an asteroid hits a planet, but the planet can still heal. Or it crumbles into something that turns into another planet eventually, and that can heal. Grow life, and maybe that's how things start. Who knows? But art can have a similar thing. You could paint this whole thing up and not like it and kind of cover it with white and paint it again. I mean, well, that's kind of like starting the universe over. But you're still got the foundations of it underneath. Usually there's some texture or marks and it can be affecting. But even if you don't do that, which I prefer, is to just keep painting on it. Find the universe that works, because universes go through evolutions, changes in form and being. And that's what abstraction is. You see, I'm just finding... See, that's a cool line. Look at this pattern. These kind of circles and forms. I like that this didn't form quite a full circle, because it makes a little bit of a distinction between these two. Brings out an interest in here. See, again, this could be a face. Eye, nose, mouth. Eye, mouth. And so on and so forth. You could bring that out if you wanted to, looking at it that way. Or eye, nose, mouth. Ooh, making a face. Ooh. But we're not going to do that. But that's the cool thing about abstraction, is that it evokes forms, images, ideas. Like looking at the clouds and seeing sheep or dragons or kitchen utensils or whatever else you might see floating around in the clouds. So right now, with the exception of some of this purple, which is a bit of a warm purple, and we've talked about warm and cool. Warm colors are like, fire. Red, yellow, orange. And cool colors more like water, cool feelings. Blues, greens, purples, especially bluer type purples. We're going to add a little bit of hot pink, a little fluorescent pink into this to add a little bit of warmth and interest, because I like to do that sometimes with abstractions. It doesn't all have to be dull at first. But you can see how, with the exception of this, the feeling, and some of the yellow, the feeling is a little bit cooler. It's nice. It almost could be like things floating around in a water stream. It can be any number of things, but again, we don't want to make it those things. Looking down upon a river and seeing things floating in it or something like that, or even looking across a bigger river, brown sky. But again, we're going to make this abstract, so we're going to add some of this hot pink color. I like these line forms, and making them with circles means that there's a lot of opportunities for the eye to find other line patterns and connect things and make more lines and circles. One of the things that I often do when painting abstractly is I'll find a color that offers a good, some contrast to the things I'm doing, or a way of painting, a brushstroke or something that's a contrast to that which I've been doing, until it becomes a little bit part for the course, for the piece or whatnot, and no longer really a contrast, and then I'll add another kind of a contrast. So even just painting down here where it had been not really touched yet adds a contrast to what has been, adding some of these types of things. And then there's quite a few. And speaking of some warmer colors, adding some red. So now we are definitely changing the equation of how it might relate to things that we recognize. Not so much just the cool colors anymore. But look how neat that is. It's just forming pieces by forming a painting by adding these colors. Just thinking if we're ready for gold. Not quite yet, but we're going to put in some white. So now we're going to see what happens. We took a brush that wasn't totally clean, and we're just going to add some white areas into some of these, which aren't really white, are they? They're reddish pink or whatnot. But add some white paint just to bring out some. And what I like too about this, especially where it's not overly colored and it's still like really light pink or whatnot, is it connects to the white here. It's not so much filling in the white as much as it's adding another layer to it, a shade to it. And I like that. It brings out another dimension to it. Because abstract art still has dimension and depth and space. It's just a different kind of space and depth, and it affects the mind differently. than looking at a straight up, realistically illustrated type of painting or drawing. Now, you can abstract things. As I keep pointing out, this could be sky, this could be a face, blah, 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 and I'm not going to do that all the time. And then I'm changing up the white a little bit here, adding just a little bit of green hint. Cooling it up some, but just a little, because it's still got a little bit of a warm hint. It just helps maybe to make it a little bit more neutral. But anyways, yes, even though we can keep evoking these images and stuff, I'm going to keep painting, keep it abstract, but it is important to note that if you want to make a realistic image, if you want to paint a portrait, if you want to paint a scene, anything that you want to paint, the insides of an ant farm or what? Well, don't disturb the ants, really. I mean, they got to do their thing too. We do need them. But that's maybe another story. Whatever it is you want to do to paint that evokes a realism, fantasy or otherwise, dragons, whatever, you can start abstract. You can paint by just feeling a form, color, rhythm, your own emotions, whatever, finding a patterns, and then build up that entity. Even in here, I can see where I can build a dragon sleeping, and maybe this is its head, maybe this is its head, or a big eye, or any number of things could happen. But I believe that if we do that, if we do paint in an abstract way, which does hit certain aspects of the mind that realistic painting doesn't, I truly believe this. And I think it's been shown. We can incorporate that into our image telling, then I think we can have a bit of feeding two birds with one scone, if you will, and a combination of a very, very powerful connection to art that could really help us to grow and evolve. So, adding some, I like this, just these blue circles here at the bottom. I am going to add a little bit more kind of in here, but I'm not going to go all over with them like I have been. I like how this is almost making a V or a point and it's bringing something out here. See that? And we have even that here. So these things, they'll stick in the piece. They'll, you can keep them, building them up to make them real strong, or they'll end up leading to other lines or circles. But they're there in the piece. They're guiding. They're adding a vibrance to this piece. There's a conscious composition to what's going on. And you can do this too. You can find these angles. If you're stuck in an abstraction, how do I start? This is how you do it. You add colors. You feel a groove and a rhythm, and you look to see, well, does this feel like good to me? Like, what's going on? Is this a cool dance? Well, maybe I'll add this. Oh, now they're dancing. Now that's cool. So you know what? I think we've earned a little bit of gold. Earning a little bit of gold. Well, I won't get started on that. It can lead to a whole big socioeconomic type of discussion, which, if art's not involved in that equation, then it's not, that's something that for someone else. But someday art will be much more involved in that equation. But adding a little bit of this gold with still some of this other color mixed. I wanted to point something out. Look at how cool this is. No pun intended, but adding some blue and gold together. I'll make it just a little example in here, and I'll try to, but it makes this neat gray color. A really cool gray, a nice iridescent gray. Look how neat that is. Gonna bring it in. Oh, now we're mixing some colors. Like, that's cool. I like that. In fact, one thing I want to do, sometimes it takes a little bit of a go nuts in an area, do something that different. Like, oh, what am I doing? Oh, that was all so cool. But now look how cool this stuff is too. Painting is not, we're not going to see a lot of these strokes when this painting is done. They're living their life. They're helping us find this beautiful universe, and then they'll be covered, but they're still there, so they're still a part of it. Just like all of us, like life. It's like painting is such a connection to the truths of existence. I really believe this. We look to religions and science and philosophy to discover our problems and discover the meaning of life, but art is just an important energy or function in that. If we can incorporate it into everything and really, really learn to open our minds and hearts to it, it will change the world. We've lost a connection to art, I think, as a whole. We don't live artfully, we don't connect it to a larger part of our life. It tends to be just a description of our own personal feelings, and and there can be a lot of negativity about it or even propaganda. And being able to just paint freely and connect to that energy of it, I think, is a real important way to understand just how dear art is to us and our consciousness. So adding just now, adding a little bit of white into this. So now we have this kind of form in here. I like this. Why not? Amidst all this other party favory, confetti-ish kind of a color kind of thing going on. And it's grayer. It's a grayer type of a form. We made a really neat gray with this golden blue and then some of this yellow and blue and green and the white, the various colors. And time to bring in some of this purple because we want to keep... Right now, I feel like rather than making it all gray, like we might start with a piece and then bring out the brighter colors, that'll happen itself in mixing and adding more colors. But I like to start with some bolder colors sometimes with these abstractions. This purple is nice. It's not the most fluorescent purple in the world. If you put it under a black light, it'll work a little bit, but it's not really going to pop like some of these other colors, this yellow will and the pink. But it'll be there some. It makes a real nice color, though. It's a nice purple. It mixes, look at that nice mix with the blue. Wow, look how beautiful that is. Even with that touch of this whitish gray in there, the gray and the purple blue really brings out the pasteliness of it. Oh, lovely, lovely. Sometimes on a painting, too, you can spend a lot of time on a single moment, and that's not a bad thing. Like, our whole universe is our whole universe, right? But our galaxy, it's its own. And amongst billions of galaxies, you can spend a lot of time looking at our galaxy. You get closer in, you're going to spend a lot of time looking at our own solar system. You get closer in, you're going to spend a lot of time looking at Earth and people. You get closer in, you can spend a lot of time looking at individuals and so on and so forth. And it's the same thing with a piece. Every little bit's a microcosm of a universe, of a larger macrocosm. So you could spend 1,000,000 years or minutes or hours on this little section, adding and changing and moving and whatnot and keeping tiny dots and all these things. And we'll do a little bit of that. But so it's like each piece has its own little painting, its own little moments of interest, its story. Its story is of color. It's of color and change, connection, movement. Beautiful. Painting is incredible. Abstract painting is such a phenomenal exercise of the heart, body, spirit, and mind. It's like quantum physics of art in a way. There's a certain level of serendipity, there's a certain level of unknowing, and there's a certain level of change and chance in a very direct connection to the physical elements of the universe. There's a lot of change and chance in what can happen with painting, especially when you're painting abstract in this kind of a way. Let alone liquidy and thick and on a level where it can move around, that's a whole other story. I really like the white and this purple and just adding things in some and just feeling things. In fact, I'm going to step back a little bit here and just take a look. When I'm doing that, I'm feeling like this is great in here, but how does it connect to some of this other stuff? I really like sometimes painting these, finding your way with these grays and these beautiful little subtle colors, these pastel-y, cool colors. It's just so beautiful. Not all colors in painting really should be bold, unless that's really what you're going for. I mean, let yourself enjoy the beautiful subtle grays and browns and purple grays and all these different colors. It's just wonderful stuff. A little bit more. And yeah, you can see how some of these colors, when you add some in, they're real powerful against the lighter colors. So same principles apply, like if you're painting realistic stuff, then if you're mixing colors, a lot of times the lighter color will get much darker than the darker color will get lighter. So use just a small amount of dark color to a larger amount of light color to start, and then that's how I usually mix in stuff. And then here, though, we're doing things a little different. I'm liking these cools again. It's just adding another nice level of things to this piece. Rather than just making these individual dots and moving around, just spreading things a little bit. Mists and layers and maybe water. It just did literally add some water. A little bit more, I don't know, white sometimes. It's just I really like to use it a lot in pieces to both connect and separate even. Doing both simultaneously. Yeah, that brightened it up again. These areas were looking a little light to me, and so there we go. I like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of this fluorescent yellow to some of these pink circles because I know it makes a real interesting... Oops, still got a little green there. That's all right. If I really, really was concerned, I would clean my brush a little bit better, but that's okay. Again, I like sometimes, especially here at the beginning, being able to connect the colors a little bit through having them a little bit muddy. Oh, see, because look how cool that ends up looking. Neat little microcosms. If you looked up real close, you could see its own little beachy landscape. I don't know. I'm not zooming in here. Maybe I'll figure out how to do that in these other lessons. But for right now, you can see almost a beachy thing here and ocean and a sky just from this little stroke of paint. Let the imagination work. That's why it's so great to allow for that type of thing. Allow for a little bit of a mud, an accident and stuff in painting. It can lead to so many different visions and ways to compose, and the imagination is just fueled by it. So I'm feeling right now, because we are doing this in parts, and I don't want all of these lessons to be super long. I'm going to try to get to a point where I feel this is a nicely oh, I like that. See how this just connected? Sometimes one mark will do it. You'll be painting, and how does this connect? You make one little curve like this. It hooks up to this, it hooks up to this, it comes down in here. See that, how it just connects? And now you're looking here at this, it comes into here, and now this makes more sense. It's just, I love that kind of thing. So, but anyways, we're going to see if we can come to a place where it feels good to walk away from. It doesn't feel super unfinished. I mean, maybe it is, and maybe we know it's not done, but it feels like, yeah, this is cool, you know. If I never came back to it again for whatever reason, it could still looks like a nice, cool piece. I just want a little bit more of a yellow light something in here, and maybe actually wipe the brush just a little bit more, a little bit of fluorescent and then a touch of the pink. A little bit more of it pink, a little bit more pink. Just a little bit more of that connectivity in here, but like to what we've got over here, but it still can be a little bit mixed in, unlike these circles. It's all a little mixed in. But anyways, see, we're trying to find something. See how these connect up in here? They also can move up in here because they connect in that way and then come back down in. And so now your eye's moving in here. But we have these bright pinks over here. So your eye still pulls this way. So it's not totally imbalanced by having it asymmetrical. A lot of really painting abstractly and discovering the things that you can do with paint is looking at a life like a harmony without balance, or a, asymmetrical type of symmetry, if that makes any sense. Or rhythm without pattern, and equality without symmetry, or something like that. I'm not going to try to come up with a bunch of magnet phrases or anything right now. Those are often best come up with autonomously, serendipitously, by chance, if you will. So, that. All right. So on this note, I'm going to try to see. So I'm kind of going along, and I made this nice stroke of this beautiful color. But it was a real stark contrast to a lot of the direction I had going in here. So what I'm going to do is find a way, and it's coming in here by connecting it up like this with a few slight curves and a few smaller marks to connect it back in here, and then find my way to take a break from this piece so we can come back to it afresh in our next show. Let me step back and take a look. Yeah, I really liked how that helped to bring this in more, but it still connects up. I'm going to take a little bit. I don't want to do too much. Take just a little bit more off, a little bit more, blend that contrast in, and then add just so it connects a little bit more with some of these areas that are lighter. And that way, yeah, that brings it up just a little bit more. And this will help bring it in a little more that way without too much. All right, and then, because I often like to keep a continuity of color in an abstraction going throughout the piece, I'll bring a little bit more up in here. And again, I could keep painting this for hours and hours, and someday maybe we'll do a show like that where I just paint a piece. Talk the whole way. We'll do a marathon. Let's add a little bit. I really like this color. It's nice, especially at this phase on the brush. Yeah, we're looking good. All right, well, we sure had some fun here. I did. I hope you had some fun too, and had fun on your own painting. We really found a nice little world to start with here, and I think it's in a nice little spot to finish. There's some grays, and we're going to bring out some areas that might feel a little bit muddy. We'll connect them and make them bolder or whatever it is that they need, and that's one of the cool things about painting in layers. And allowing yourself to do that, because sometimes, like I think with this shape here, something that was a little bit more muddy and solid when everything else was sort of floating around in confetti-like and really spread around, it added some more visual interest. It added another intrigue and some direction in which we can go, and for the imagination to work a little differently than it was. So I love that sort of thing. We made some really great purples and mixing some nice grays with the blues and the golds and the various colors. We kept a continuity going. So these circles form this other sort of a circle in here, even a larger one. And then we have some nice connection, harmony of contrast, and sort of a rhythm without a pattern. A solidness without a balance. It's nice. So these fluorescents really help to pop up areas as well. We're going to be adding a few more of those. As a matter of fact, let's just do a little bit. Oh yeah, just to add a little bit more of a zazang and a little bit more interest before we close out. And see where that leads the eye next time. Painting is fun. Abstract painting, again, like I've been saying, it's great for the mind, soul, body, life. So keep on painting, please. And again, if you're painting with us for the first time, you're going to join us again next time and actually paint. Please don't copy my piece. Don't copy me. No. I want you to iterate your own interest, to find your own color combinations, your own heart, your own soul in your abstractions. Let these guide you. You can use some of these colors and mix them and try these things, but remember, you don't want your piece to look like this. Everyone's is going to be a little bit different. That's the beauty of this, and that's, I think, part of the magic of abstract art, if not art in general. It's not to just, I'm going to copy this person's art to make it look just like this, but I'm going to find my own way to make art and put my own piece of existence into this thing. So I can't stress that enough. So once again, this is a lot of fun. There's so many possibilities. There's so many things that we can do. Add a little. I like that too. Oh yeah, can I connect up, make a little bit more. That's a little bit better a way to end it too, I think. Just a little bit more on that bold note. Oh, look at that contrast in there. What's going to happen next? Tune in. Next Bat Time and Bat Channel and Bat Canvas. So, all right. Well, we'll see you next time. We'll plan on posting Wednesday and going to continue on this painting. So, thank you all very much. Keep making art.